How is everybody? And welcome to Dee Talk Live Thursdays. I hope everybody is doing amazingly. And we're ready for another great topic for tonight's talk, tonight's session, tonight's topic that we are going into specifics about. Because tonight we talk about a very, very controversial topic that is sometimes condoned in our society and sometimes perceived as being the right way to associate in everyday life. But in fact, we tend to be programmed at a very young age to see that this is the way that we should be thinking about specific things. It's somewhat in a judgmental sense. It's somewhat in a biased sense. It's to do with prejudice and to do with the way that we perceive things in our lives because of the way that we have been not only brought up or programmed, but our ideals. So the way that we have grown up and what we have learnt while we have grown up and what we think is right because of the way that we view life and what we believe to agree with and disagree with. So we're always going to have our likes, we're always going to have our dislikes, and then we're always going to have our views upon society and upon specific people or social differences or races or genders or ethnicity or sexes. I did say genders again, didn't I? So tonight's question pretty much delves into something that we're going to explore tonight. And the question tonight is, how do we overcome prejudice and social bias in a society, in a way of being? Let me just do something here. For us to overcome such obstacles and things that people seem to do to us because they feel as though it's the right way, right? So in terms of a human characteristic, from when we were younger, the human characteristic that was enlisted in us was to be judgmental because we weren't going to agree with what everybody and anybody was doing. It was something that we were brought up with. And a lot of people tend to be a lot more judgmental than others. And I know a few. And in saying that, I understand why they're like this, because they don't understand where you're coming from, or they don't understand that perception of someone else's difference. And they don't seem to agree with the same things that you do, only because it's their way of thinking. So there's nothing really wrong with us sitting there and having opinions or having our own sort of ideas on specific things. But in some cases, it can be seen as being rude, or it can be seen as, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, right? So therefore, you don't need to be judgmental, right? But a lot of people are, as we say. I, for one, am not very judgmental at all because I see the difference. I live in a modern society and I believe that things are somewhat different to what they used to be years and years ago, especially in regards to the wisdom that I have created in my environment and what I have gone through, and also the experience that I have as the person that I am. So tonight we're going to explore, we're going to look at aspects in regards to overcoming the prejudice and the social bias that keeps on happening. And a lot of the times, the way that we can overcome is familiarize ourselves with these types of people. So different cultures, for example, same sex, genders, equality, different type of identity groups. So it's all manifested through, being in favor of something, maybe an individual or a group based on their social identities. So that's what I'm getting down to. So if we were more in tune, if we were more adapted to what was actually going on in our society or in the group that we tend to situate ourselves in or belong to, then we'd understand that there's a lot of this going on. And this is a main issue that's happening. You sometimes don't know a specific person. And this is what I said in my post. I remember this. A lot of the times we get judged for things that we necessarily don't know that we're being judged for, only because these people don't know who we are or where we've come from, right? Or our life experiences. Because that's why I brought up the fact of look in your own backyard and stop judging everybody else. Because what's happening in your backyard? And that's where it goes back to psychological analysis and emotional intelligence. Obviously, everybody has something in their family, something that's not right, okay? And they have problems. It's a massive issue that is theirs though. And it happens, and it's normality. It's the way of life, and it's the way to deal with things. Because once you're given specific issues or hurdles to go through, you're able to teach other people what you've been through. And through these lessons, you're able to learn, because that's what we're here for. Our soul is here for learning and growing and evolving and becoming amazing. So basically, that's what it's all about. So everybody has something different happening in their lives. Therefore, why and who gives you the right to judge these people? It's because of how your ideology from past has educated you in one sense, right? And sometimes it's not really your fault. But in saying that, you can change. You don't have to be the way that you've been brought up. It's like identity. Because everybody is going to get Botox, it doesn't mean you need to go get Botox. And remember, I have nothing against getting cosmetic surgery as long as it makes you happy. I am not judging, right? There's a difference. And in saying that, going back to social bias and prejudice, it's all about understanding that everyone is going to be different, right? Than you, than me, than the next person. And that's what makes us so amazing though. That's what makes us individual and authentic. You don't have to be like everybody else. And you don't have to look like everybody else. Because how boring would a society be being like that, right? So all about prejudice, all about communicative boundaries, all about the not knowing and the non-educational emphasis we have in this society. So this is where it comes down to us getting out there and putting ourselves in a position where we educate ourselves and understand that not everybody is going to be the same. Our traditions are different. Our cultures are different. We come from different areas. We are Australian. I get that. But we have migrated to this beautiful country, and we have brought so many beautiful things to put the addition that was so necessary in order to build this country and make it so fabulous that it is, right? But that's where we have to understand and create, right, a coherence where we belong and we accept everybody and one another, and types of biases. So I'm going to get into it now so you guys understand. Like social bias, so this is the difference, right? We're going to go into, obviously, prejudice. We're going to go into social bias in order for you guys to understand where I'm coming from. So social bias can be positive and negative and refers to being in favor or against individuals or groups based on their social identity. So what I said earlier. So example, race, gender, etc. So it delves into, a deep understanding somewhat, okay? And, types of biases. By the way, this is taken from the Counseling and Wellness Center in Florida, which is located in the University of Florida. Thank you so much, guys, for your amazing information and research that I have done. They are great. So, biases are often based on stereotypes and prejudice, which is a judgmental aspect. Because, as I said, prejudice can be split into, so prejudice, prejudgmental. So, it's the same sort of word, but, it's just worded differently, but it means the same thing. That is systematically maintained, when individuals act on their bias. So this is considered discrimination, right? So that's why I say when we're a specific way, you can get into a lot of trouble for it as well. And members of certain social groups, example, women, Muslims, transgender people, are more likely to experience discrimination due to living in a society that does not adequately promote equality, right? Sorry, not equality, equity. Because people don't understand where they're coming from. That's why I'm saying the way to overcome prejudice and social bias is actually to educate ourselves about these people and about other things that we don't know about. Because it's okay to judge when you don't know, right? And that's with anything in life. You go and judge without even knowing what's going on. But why? But why? I don't understand, right? So types of biases always come into it. And biases that are defined are stereotypes, prejudice, discrimination. And then obviously you have the meanings. So stereotype is a thought. So it's a thought process. It's an idea in your mind. Prejudice is a feeling. It's the way that you feel. This is how I feel. I don't like this because this is the way that I've been brought up, and this is how I feel, and I don't like this because it doesn't align with my values or what I believe is right. Okay? Then you've got discrimination, which is the behavior behind everything. And it's pretty much prejudice with social power. Social power comes in with oppression as well. Oppression's a massive topic, but we're not going to get into that because I want to address that on a separate live that we're going to do because it is huge. Oppression is everywhere in this world. It's crazy. It's something we can overcome though if we bring love and unity into the mix, as I say always. Right? So, a stereotype. I'm going to go through each one and then I'm going to play a game with you guys. So we'll see what we're able to identify and know exactly what's what and what situation refers to exactly which bias, right? So a stereotype, a view held by a group of people toward another group of people which is fixed and unwavering, allowing for no critical judgment, okay? So that's a stereotype. It's something that we might say that we don't necessarily feel as though we're discriminating or being judgmental. It's more or less just an idea, right? So a stereotype, it's something, all girls are the same, or all, for example, and I'm going to give you some of those examples for us to go through. Then you've got prejudice, which is a negative attitude or feeling toward a person because of their membership to a particular social group. These attitudes and feelings could include disdain, hatred, which is horrible, or simply feeling uncomfortable around or about the devalued group, right? So that's what prejudice is. They're the feelings that you get and how you deal with specific things. Then you've got discrimination, which is the biggest one, right? That's behaviors, and that's the way you act towards specific situations and people or ideas or whatever it may be. So, prejudice and social power, which is what I said before. When members of a more powerful social group act unjustly and unfairly towards members of a less powerful social group because of their membership to that group, right? So that's crazy. That's not even something that, it's horrible, That's why I said we shouldn't be this way. And then we have the game, which is what we're going to talk about tonight. So these are some examples, right? And to get involved with what's actually going on, So your mother tells you that all Asian people are bad drivers. So is it a stereotype? Is it a discrimination? Is it prejudice? What is it exactly? How are we able to fathom? So we go back to what we had explored earlier. So is it a thought process? Is it something that we feel, or is it a behavior? Right? So obviously it's a stereotype, because it doesn't mean that all Asian drivers, they don't know how to drive, or they're bad drivers. It's just something that people have created for years, might I add, about Asian people and driving, right? So the next one, at your workplace you see a cartooning around that contains graphic images and words that degrade women. Sorry. So what is that? That's definitely a discrimination, because you shouldn't be discriminating against any gender. At the end of the day, we are who we are, and we love being who we love being, and we shouldn't have any derogatory, disgusting cartooning or vice versa things out there, and people judging us in that sense. So that's part of, discrimination. And then the last one, right? You overhear your roommate saying that he is disgusted by the idea of two men kissing, right? What's that? What would that one be? Prejudice, because it's judgmental. It's their own view, because their view does not sit in line with two men kissing, right? You can have your own opinion, that's fine. But it does not need to be spoken about. I guess everyone's going to be quite vocal about things like this. And that's fair enough, right? Because I'm not judging anyone. You can do what you want to do. But it's the way people want to be. And just leave that person be. When you're out, for example, I'll give you an example. When you're out at a restaurant or something, or you're out with friends and you're sitting down and you're just enjoying their company and nothing else matters but you and what's going on in front of you, why would you sit there and consistently criticize people around you, or judge them, or say this about this person or that about that person? Is it because your life is miserable? Or is it because you're not happy? In your own maybe relationships. It might even be about a relationship that they might be talking about. Who knows? Or that this person, look at their hair, or look at what they're wearing. Do you know what? Good on them. If they feel comfortable wearing a specific thing, who are we to judge them? They feel comfortable. When they're out, they've put something on in order to feel great about themselves. And to get out there, like me going back to fashion, of course. But it could be anything. Or you see someone, or someone talks to you, or displace yourself from toxicity. You don't need to be around people like that. These people need to understand that everybody is different, and remember, they're not necessarily going to align with your values or agree with what you think is right either, because no one's ever better than anyone, and no one's ever righter than the other one. Righter. It's a new word that I'm creating here, guys. So it's all about that. It's all about trying to overcome the prejudice and the social bias that we consistently face every day in our society, because it's not nice. It's not a nice way of viewing the world. It's something that really needs programs around it and, education around it, because you might not necessarily think that people, aren't judging you if you judge them, but in reality, they're judging you, right? No one's ever perfect, and you're never going to make everybody happy. And that's not what we're here for. We're here to actually help as many people as we can. And we're here to live this human experience and create positive memories and experiences in order to really live out our dreams and what we think is right for us. Therefore, we can displace ourselves from things like that. And if it's not something that you like or something that you don't want to learn about, or you want to stay in that specific mindset, go for it. It's your prerogative. We have choices. We've been given choices. Therefore, it's really up to you to take that next step and see how those choices are going to influence your life and how they're going to impact the decisions that are coming up next in your life. Thank you again to everybody for joining me tonight on Dee Talk Live Thursdays. I love you guys. Mwah! I will see you again for another epic love episode on Monday. Dee Talk Live, Love Talk Mondays. I hope you guys have an amazing evening, and please keep in mind what we have spoken about tonight, because it's aggravating to one sense, because it's just easy, but obviously, remember, it's all about what we've been taught and what we believe, and it has to do with opinions and values. But sometimes being a specific way in regards to being stereotypical, discriminating someone, having prejudice, or, having that social bias doesn't exactly make a great mix in the ingredients in order to bake something amazing, So I hope you guys are all well. Have an amazing evening. Thank you again for joining me tonight on Dee Talk Live Thursdays. I'll see you guys on Monday. Have an amazing evening, guys. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining me.